I'm back again. I tried to time it so I started live streaming when the song started, but that didn't work out, obviously, because some stuff broke. But anyways, just get started. So first of all, I have to start the server. And go to the page. So what we did last time was, well, this. We generated some supposedly Perlin noise, but it doesn't really look like it to me. That should like show where the different like world generation sections of the map would be. It's sort of hard to explain. So there's still a couple things I sort of forgot to do last time. One of them, I feel like this should probably be inverted. So take 1 minus that, because it feels like these ridges underwater would look better as mountains. So let's see if that works. Nope. Although I think I'm sort of close. Although I don't know. Should probably look at the data coming over to see what we have to do to make this work. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so it seems to be going over the max value, which is not good. So that would have to be fixed. I think I see the problem. This would have to, so probably have to be outside of the absolute value. Okay, let's try that. Okay, that is better, I think. Doesn't seem to be going over the max value this time. Although it doesn't seem to be going much lower than this, which is not good. I guess I could try moving this even more outside. So I guess I can probably subtract that from 256. Okay, that is the same thing. So it looks like the values weren't much going above 140, so they're probably staying mostly above that now. So I'd probably have to just adjust these values a bit. So maybe make that 100, 160, maybe 200. Okay, that's better. Let's just adjust these values some more. Yeah, I feel like that's better. It's just now everything is super bright. So I guess I can just reduce the colors. Maybe 0 to 64 and maybe 64 to 128 for the oceans. Though I guess I do kind of like the oceans like that. Maybe we can keep that. Same with the beaches. However, the plains definitely need to be darker. So maybe 0 to 64 and 64 to 128. And again, 0 to 64. And also they're actually, never mind. Mountains are fine. Let's see what this does. Okay, that looks super weird. Okay, maybe more plains and less mountains. Okay, that seems pretty good to me. So I forgot to change the seed to a random number when generating something. So I believe it would be perlin.seed and then a random number. So that should generate something different. Okay. That broke. That should be noise. The library called it noise, not Perlin. And that is something different. So that seems to be working. So now we have to actually generate the terrain, because that is technically not what this is. But that shouldn't be too hard. So So we're probably going to need another height map variable. So this variable would be more like a biome map, because it's sort of saying where to put the different world generation options. So I'll have to change this here. And I don't think anywhere else. And then we would put height map here, since that'll be the actual height map. So we would, so like if the biome map is below a certain value, we want it to be flat ocean. So maybe if the biome map index, wait, what is that? Well, we can't use I here, because that is acting as the X value for the biome map generation. So but however, we can just get the latest value that was pushed to the biome map. So we can say biome map dot length -1. So that will get the last item. And then if it is less than, what value did we say here? 160. Then the height map will just push 0. So now you can change this, that if the brightness is 0, then it will be oceans. It also means we have to actually set a constant value for this instead of using all these map functions. So I don't know, maybe 64 and 128. Let's see what that's like. Okay, it's pretty dark. Let's set this to, let's just double these values. So that should be a much lighter shade of blue. Okay. I feel like that should be even lighter. Okay, that's pretty good. So now becomes slightly trickier. So we should probably set this as a variable. So you can just copy this formula into here, and then do biome value. And then here we can replace this with biome value. Wait a minute. There we go. And then the biome value is less than, did we say for beaches? 190. Then we can set the height map to I don't know, maybe between 0 and 0.1. So this would actually be the value. So we would have biome value, and those two are the values we're trying to map to. So we'd actually have to say 190 to 140. We know 240. So that should be some kind of okay biome generation for beaches. So now you'd have to say if it's less than 0.1, then we set that to the beach color. Okay, didn't generate properly. That is because we don't have the map function in the terrain.js. So I can just copy this over to here. Let's try it now. Okay, that is broken. What went wrong here? I think I know what it is. We'll have to set it a value for if we don't have a height map value generated, so you can test it while we don't have everything generated. So you can just set it to 1 for now. So that's what I did here. Let's try that. There we go. Okay. So that seems to be working okay. So now is where it gets like extra tricky, because we need to generate some nice hills. So why can't I type properly? Is my keyboard broken? This is weird. Okay, my keyboard's working now. Wonder what that was. So now we have to generate some nice hills. So what we would need to do that is generate some hilltops and then get the distance to those hilltops. So we can write a function that generates hills with a width and height and number of hills. Actually, you don't need the width and height. because that is given here. We just need the number. And also another height map that generates hills. And also, I don't believe we need the biome map anymore, so we can just get rid of this. So you can just have a hills map. So to be able to do that, we need to generate some hilltops. And we need to have a list of those hilltop positions. And then we need to push something to the list. I is a G. So we need to push something to the list, which is a randomly generated hilltop position. So we can just say math.random. That'll generate a random number between 0 and 1, and multiply it by the width. And same for the height. So that'll generate a bunch of random points. And then we need to pretty much copy this loop over, because we need to loop for every pixel again. And then we need to push to the hills map the value for the position given. Although we need to calculate that value first. So you need to calculate which point is closest. So you need a minimum distance. And we should also keep track of the maximum distance of all of the points, so we can normalize it between 0 and 1. And we want to set that to infinity. So any value will be less than that, and will therefore be replaced. Anyways, we need to loop for all of the hilltops. Wait. So that'll loop through all the hilltops. And I also want to set the... Wait a minute. I don't want the max distance to be infinity, I want it to be 0. And I want the minimum distance to be infinity. So any number less than that will be replaced. So then we need to find the distance, which means a function to calculate the distance would be nice. So that just takes in x and y, and another x and y. And then you would return the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So that should calculate the distance. Then we need to, then a variable for the distance would be nice here. So we need to calculate the distance between the hilltop wait, no, that should be k, and this should be an array, actually. And then we need the first position, or 0th, which should be the x position, and then we need the y position, so that will be the point of the hilltop we're checking, and then the point of the point we're checking would be I and j. So that will calculate the distance between I, j, and the hilltop we're checking. And then we need to know if the minimum distance is greater than the distance, then we want to set the minimum distance to the distance. And that will get the distance to the closest one. Whoops. Those should be curly brackets, not square ones. So now, for the hills map, we can just push the minimum distance. However, we also have to check if it's the largest distance. So if the maximum distance is less than the minimum distance, then we need to set the maximum distance to the minimum distance. This is just saying that we want to detect the farthest away a point is from its closest hill. So the reason we would need that is we'll need to loop through all the points in the hills map. And then we need to set the point in the hills map we're checking equal to its value mapped, which is between 0 and the maximum distance, which is why we calculated that. And it needs to be between 0 and 1. So now when we start, we can calculate, we can call this hills function, and then give it some arbitrary number for the number of hills we want. So that should be that done, if it works. So now what we can do is set that to the hills map index. Okay, this is slightly tricky, but we need to convert the xy to the index. So the y position is just the y times the height, and then we just need to add the x. And then we should probably multiply this by some value. Maybe 200. And this thing is just for testing. I'm going to change this later. I just want to check if it works. Okay, that's interesting. What happened here? It's not drawing anything. Let's look at the values again. Okay, not a number. That's not good. So I screwed something up in here. But what is it? Okay, let's see what the hilltops is. Because if the hilltops make sense, then we know it's something with this code and not the hilltops. Okay, there are 0 hilltops, apparently. That's not good. So that means it's a problem with the hilltops. Okay, here's the problem. Number.length. I must have been thinking incorrectly and did the convention for if number was an array, and I was looping for everything in the array, but hilltops is not an array, so it's just a number, so you don't need that. So maybe this will work now. Okay, hilltop is not defined, line 65. That should be hilltops, and hilltops again. Okay, it looks like it's working. However, there's some weird points here. And it also looks like it's sort of inverted in a weird way. So, to fix a weird inverting, you can just set that to 0 and 1. And, well, I mean set this to between 1 and 0 instead of 0 and 1. That would flip it. And then sort of have a guess for what's with the weird pixels. Not sure though. So the weird pixels look like they're on mountaintops, which means there's a chance we have a weird divide by 0 error somewhere. But I guess we can say that if hills map index I, or I guess if not hills map index I, which would mean if it's a bad value, then we can just set that to, oh goodness. being called. Sorry, just a spam call. Anyways, then we can just set map index I to 0. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so this looks much better. So now we need to actually integrate this with the code in a way that isn't just for testing. So we need to check if the biome value is less than 240, which is what it is here, checking for planes. And then we can map this, which we know is between 0 and 1, to I don't know, maybe, well, it has to be a minimum of 0.1, maybe a maximum of 0.5. So now we set this to 0.5. We also have to add in the thing that just pushes 1. And then we now know the brightness is between 0.1 and 0.5 for all of these. So I can just copy and paste. Okay. See what this looks like. Okay. Can't really see the height difference all that well. Maybe let's change this to 128 and 255. Ah. Okay, that's looking more interesting. So now we need to generate the mountains. My keyboard's broken again. Okay, there we go. So this is the trickier part. It also might be good if we integrate the plains and the mountaintops thing. So there will be a better color blend between them. But I think I have a better idea for this. So we can generate the terrain for the plains and the mountains and interpolate between them depending on what the biome value is. So I guess that means I need some sort of interpolate function. p5.js called which has a bunch of functions like this integrated, calls it lerp. So I'm going to just use this. So we need two values. And by the way, lerp stands for linear interpolation. So we need two values and some other number that shows which value it should be closer to, and by how much. I'm not sure what to call that. Maybe interpolate. Can't really shorten that in any way that looks nice and doesn't stand for something else. So we need to return v1 plus v2 over 2. That will give an average. And now I have to multiply these in some way. So I think we need to multiply them by interpolate times 2. And this one by... Actually, this one needs to be 1 minus interpolate. And this one needs to be just normal interpolate. So if interpolate is 1, then this should be 1 minus interpolate, which is 0, multiplied by v1, which is 0, times 2, which is 0. And then we would multiply interpolate, which is 1, times 2, and then v2. So we get v2 times 2 divided by 2, which would be v2. So we can do the lerp function on this. So we need some nice way to generate mountains. So I'm thinking, what was it? Noise.simplex2 and the I and j values over 100. Whoops, spelled that wrong. And then the value to interpolate by would just be the mapped value of the biome value, which we know is between 190 and 256. And then we need to map that to between 0 and 1. This map function is very handy. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, that's a little terrifying. So what happened here? Ooh. I need to, first of all, I need to map the planes values to between 0 and 1. And then I need to absolute value the noise value, and then I need to map all of this to between, which we know is between 0 and 1, to 0.1 and 1. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, that is interesting. Not really what I'm going for, though, which is probably obvious. I feel like I should probably check if my lerp function is working correctly. Let's see what happens when I lerp 0 and 1 and 0.5. So when I do it between 0 and 1, I should just get the interpolation value, which seems to be what it is doing. If I set it to 2, then it should be 1.4, which looks right. If I do it between 1 and 2, okay, so I don't think it's my interpolation function. I believe I would also have to do 1 minus the simplex noise thing, for the reason I showed earlier. So let's try that. This isn't really better. What do I do about this? I guess I would also have to make this value lower, so it's less high up when it's closer to the beach. So I guess I can just do layer another map function in there. So I would need to map the biome value again, which is, again, between, what? 190 and 256. And I want that to be between 0.1 and 1. This is getting to be a bit of a hot mess. Okay, that's certainly better. However, I feel like we need some more of those hills. So I believe we should square this value so it'll be closer to 0 more of the time, and therefore more hills than mountains. That doesn't seem to be all that much better. Maybe if I like hypercube that, if that's the name. There's still too many mountains. Maybe if I set this to some ridiculous value, the amount I'm taking the exponent of the lerping value. Wait a minute, is this lerping value even right? Ah, there's a typo in the lerping value. There we go. Okay, so previously this number was 19, but it's supposed to be 190. So that's a big oof. I can set that back to a reasonable value. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Though I'm still not seeing the hills pop very much. So maybe if we were to take the square root of this value, that would make it go a bit closer to, no, curve it so it's a bit closer to 1 instead of a straight line. Okay. This is interesting. Not entirely sure what I think about it, but it seems kind of okay to me. I don't know what you think. It'd be nice if we had a map with a bit more ocean in it. Okay. I feel like we definitely need the mountains to be spread out a bit more. Anyways, I wonder if there's some way to take a... Actually, never mind. I can just, instead of just doing a square root, I can... Taking it to the exponent of 0.5 would do the same thing. So... Also, I'm looking at my screen and it doesn't look like you can see me very well. You see my code. I'll try and fix that real quick. Let's make this bigger. Ooh, yes, this is definitely bigger. Okay. So, I'm gonna try and change this to 0.7 instead of 0.5. Okay. This looks pretty good to me. Although I think I'm going to increase this exponent so there are a bit less mountains, more hills. I changed this value from 2 to 2.5. Okay. I feel like I'm pretty happy with this. And also, slightly tired of changing values. So, we need a nice way to draw the peaks of mountains. Actually, I've just thought of something. I apologize. We can we can square this so the mountains are a bit steeper, which will probably make things nicer when we get colors looking better. Okay. That's definitely pretty good. I think I'm gonna stick with that for now. So, I feel like we need the areas above a certain to make it look gray, like how mountains are made of rocks, and there are like no trees and stuff at above a certain height. So I feel like we need something sort of like that. So, how should I do that? Well, first of all, these are no longer between 0.1 and 0.5. So you can now change this to 255. Okay. Now, the green bits are a whole lot darker, which I guess is to be expected. So we can set this to 128. That should make the green a bit brighter. That doesn't look too bad, I would say. I feel like there could be a bit of texture in the oceans. So maybe map this, the biome value, which is between 0 and 160, between 0 and 0.05. Then here we can say brightness is less than 0.05, and then just map this, the brightness, is between 0 and 0.05, to between 0 and 64. And this value is 192. And this value is 255. Now we can maybe like half these values. I don't know. Okay. Let's see how this looks. Okay. That's interesting. Seems to have done that for the beaches instead of the ocean. Why has that happened? Probably because it's detecting that it's detecting part of the beaches as ocean. So we can change that. So we can change that here. It seems to be 0. See if this works better. Okay, now the beaches are just gone. That is strange. You can see that the oceans are clearly more interesting than a flat color, but the beaches being gone isn't a good thing. Well, what is causing that? What if I was to just push 0 again? Because that's what I was doing before when the beaches existed. That's weird. Looks like the beaches are somehow being drawn like the ocean. It also looks like there's something messed up with pushing for the beaches anyways, so that might be the problem too. Let's change that to 160, 190, which is what it should be, and put this back. Maybe this will work now. Okay, beaches exist, but there isn't really enough water in this map to see if the water is working right now. I don't see why it shouldn't be, but I guess it'd be good to check. Same with this one. Let's try again. Okay. This clearly has some, I think, it seems to have some sort of gradient, but like not very much. I guess that should be okay. Anyways, I believe that means the terrain generation is done. Although, we do need some sort of anti-aliasing on the beaches and oceans and stuff. Because you can't probably see this, but it's super pixelated there. However, I'll have to look up how to do this. Let's look at this. See the docs. This is some sort of pixie.js stuff, which I'm not using. Never mind. You know, this isn't really how it works, but I guess I can try it. So I'm just gonna stick this at the beginning here. Now I'd have to change this to draw. Yeah, that didn't seem to help. Maybe CSS does this. Hold on, let's just look at the other answers here. Although I guess this is... Although... Okay. It seems like I can't really find anything all that helpful, unfortunately. Anyways, I feel like we need some sort of loading screen. So I guess what can we draw for a loading screen? What could I do? I think I have an idea. So I'm just trying to draw a bunch of concentric circles that will spin in an interesting pattern. If you've played Data Wing, that loading screen is the sort of thing I'm trying to do. What do I mean by anti-aliasing? I mean, like, if you're to, hold on. Where is it? I have this thing on GitHub somewhere. Okay, so if you're to go to this link, which I'll send, then you should be able to see that it's all like super pixely, like all the coastlines and stuff. And I mean, like, trying to fix that. That's what I mean by anti-aliasing. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, it's not doing anything. Still nothing. Looks like I'm formatting my HSL correctly. Let's just check if this is actually running. It probably is, but just in case. Okay, so it should be drawing this. It'd probably be better if the date.now thing was out of the loop anyways. What would happen if I was to just use a set fill style? Okay, still nothing. Maybe if I was to just draw a circle. Okay, it's doing something now. Maybe time is a variable already being used? Doesn't look like it. What is it saying time would be? Maybe if we were to modulus this by math.pi times 2. Okay, that seemed to do it. Now I have to actually make this look right. So we probably want this to be lower. Okay, there's an ant on my wall. That's nice. And then we would also want to multiply this depending on I. So it'll spin faster depending on the value of I. Okay, it's doing something. We would also want to make this a stroke instead of a fill. So we would also want to make this stroke style. And we'd also want to set the line width to something high. Okay, this is looking better. Now we want to make them farther apart. So instead of on the same circle. So probably make that 64 plus I times 32. Let's try this. Okay. Seem to be spaced very far out. Let's reduce this. Although not so much. Then it'd also be good to make them spin faster. For testing, I'm just going to set this to false, so it'll never stop loading. And we should also make it even faster. This is looking pretty good to me. I'm going to see if at some point they'll line up. That'd be super satisfying. Oh, never mind, I'm sure it did happen at some point. Anyways, I'm just going to set this back to what it was. Just setting this back to height map. Okay, looks looks like we now have terrain generation and a loading screen. Anyways, I feel like this would be a good time to stop. So, see you next